So I just found out that I can do a screen record on my iPad. And I didn't know that it wasn't just screen record, you can also do audio. So that's pretty dope because I'm going to be bouncing between doing my actual sculptures in air dried clay and Nomad for the more difficult ones that I have to sort of plan out. So there's one that's coming up that I'm going to be getting to, but I'm not dealing with that right now. Right now, I just want to show you a little bit of Nomad Sculpt. It's a really, really dope 3D program, sculpting program, inexpensive. You can see right here in the upper right-hand corner, it gives you all of your tools: clay, brush, move, drag, crease, so on, so on. I just changed it so that it's running vertically down on the right-hand side. And what we're going to do right now is just create a little bit of a face. Up here in the upper left-hand corner, you can see the perspective cube. I don't know what they really call it. That's what I call it. So that you can tell which side of a sphere or whatever shape you're working from is facing you. Underneath here, you see I'm playing with it. Those are the grid lines underneath, so you can know at all times, where you're positioned. So I'm going to drag this ball up a little bit more. If I can remember how to do it, I cannot remember how to do it, it seems. But I was trying to drag the ball up a little bit more. Well, so much for that. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and start with the move tool. And again, you see in the upper left-hand corner, I'm putting it to like sort of a 3/4 view so I can start stretching it out. Over on the left-hand side, you see the two bars. One is for brush size, which I'm showing you right now. I'm taking down, making it larger. For this one, I'm going to have it pretty large. This other bar that you see me dragging right now is for the brush intensity. So you don't want to move too much too fast. So what I'm doing is just sort of pulling out the chin area. Hold on one second. So I'm pulling out sort of a chin area to start making a face. And it's almost just like a sort of tap and click when it comes to the intensity. I mean, you can take and make a big move, but you see what happens? That's extreme. So I just use 2 fingers to tap and undo that. I really want to figure out, oh, I remember how to move the actual element. I have to use the gizmo tool. So right now what you see I'm doing, I just double tapped on the perspective cube so I can see exactly where this head is. And as you can see, I've dragged it down below the floor, let's just call it. So I'm taking the gizmo tool, I'm just moving the head up because I can always minimize the screen and get an idea of how far away I am. And I'm doing that because I know I'm going to want a neck. So back to the move tool, this head is looking crazy right now, mad alien, but that's okay. What you're doing right now is basically just fleshing it out, starting to get, what the form is going to be. So you can see right here, I've pulled down the neck, angling out the chin area a little bit more, giving a little bit more volume to the back of the head. I got to get rid of this peanut shape in the front, but I can't seem to do that right now. So I'm adjusting the brush size again to go in the area of the cheeks. And with sculpting, you're constantly turning, looking, because you make a move on one part, and of course, it ends up affecting other parts. Now, this box just came up because it's allowing you to name your project. So right now, I'm just going to name this TikTok, and that came out all wrong. So I'm scratching through it, starting over. So Tick and Tok, or however they spell it. That's because this is just my first little test that I'm doing with you guys. All right, so back to the sculpting. So as you can see, I started pushing in the sides because the changes that I made affected that. So here I am coming back down to the neck area. You can see the stretch marks, I guess you can call them. That's from where the wire grid has been stretched to capacity. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. Now, I've turned on the wire, and I'll zoom in a little closer for you. See how distorted that is? In Nomad Sculpt, they have something called voxel merge. I think it's called voxel merge or something like that. So anyway, I just adjusted that. So what it did is where all of the squares were distorted, it gave them a sort of averaged based uniformity. So I'm turning off the wire now just so we can look at it. There's a tool in Nomad Sculpt called Smooth. Now, I have it set so that's smooth with my finger. So I'm just smoothing that out. And you can see any areas that were too pixelated, it just, it sort of works with the squares and averages them out. So I'm going back to the Move tool because, of course, this head is still misshapen. I double tap on the perspective cube to get it to the front, and I just want to see what the front is looking like. Of course, the neck is not looking real good. So you just play around on it. Now, at this point, I'm sort of bored with fixing up on the neck and the head and areas like that. My patience level is low, so I start wanting to get into the meat of what are these features going to be? What is the face going to look like? So we're going to go ahead and pause on shaping up the head right now, because that can come later. You're going to constantly be moving around, looking at things from the top, because what might look okay from the front can look real whack on the top. You see how square the head is right now, but we can fix all of that later. So I'm going to up the intensity a little bit on my brush, pull down the size just a bit, and you can see that middle dot shows you where the highest pressure point is going to happen. And of course, the circle outside shows you the areas that will be affected when you make these moves. So what I want to do right now is start building out the eye. So I have it set to symmetry. That's something I forgot to say to you. And symmetry is what's happening on the left is happening on the right. And you can see that when I touch right there, you see the dot in the center, that's the dot where I'll be making the sculpt areas or moving or doing something to it. But that other red dot on the right of it tells me that that's going to happen on the other side as well. So sometimes you don't want that. You're able to turn symmetry off, no problem. But what we're going to do right now is keep symmetry on. I'm turning it sort of 3/4. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, that perspective cube, and I want to sort of push in eye sockets. Now, I got to admit to you, I'm pretty horrible with doing eyes. I don't know what it is. I watched tutorials that showed me how to do eyes, and they always pretty much pushed in this socket area. Okay, so for right now, that looks, okay to you. That looks fine to you, but I'll show you what happens when I really start trying to build out the eyes, the difficulty I run into for some reason, and I basically think I'm just going to have to watch a few more tutorials. So you see now where the features are starting to come together. So I'm dropping the brush size down just a little bit more, and I want to pull out, this figure's nose. So I'm still using the move tool, and I'm sort of looking at the top, at the bottom, and I'm creating the nostrils area and the nose area. And like I said, you're going to see a lot of things that are wrong, that are too bumpy, too flat, whatever. You'll be able to fix that down the road. So now, as it stands, we have a nose, we have the forehead, we have the eye sockets drawn in. Forehead's a little too bulbous, but we'll come back and fix that later. I was telling you about smooth in Nomad Sculpt. You can set it to smooth with your fingers. So I'm just smoothing out the eye sockets and the nose a little bit. Now, what I just tapped on was the multi-resolution area, and that's basically how your wire grid starts out. And it usually starts out with a pretty small amount of squares. So as you get into more and more detailing, you want more squares to create the grid that goes around your subject. So what I'm doing is if you look up in the, not right in the upper left-hand corner, but if you can see the word faces and vertices, it says 35.3K. So that's what I started out with. I'm hitting subdivide because I want to add more squares. So let me undo that really quickly. I just undid it. So now I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to put the wire. This is what it looks like at 35.3K. Now, if you look at the back, you see that the squares are pretty tiny. That's because I haven't been doing much stretching to that. When you look here closer on the eyes, you saw where I pushed it in to create the eye sockets. Of course, I stretched out area for the nose. And you see those squares are getting larger. They're angled. They're following the flow of the work. Now, I'm going to go back up here to the multi-resolution area. I'm going to hit subdivide, and I think it quadruples the current figure. So now it's at 141K, and you can see where, even though it's still following the curvature of where I pulled in the eye sockets, there are a lot more squares. So that means when I start creating more detailed areas, more detailed work, it's not going to look distorted in the same way because now it's been given more area to work with. I don't know if I'm explaining this right. I hope I am. So yeah, I'm going to take away the wire so we can stop with that. Pushing up the nostrils a little bit, create more of that nose that I want to get to. Smoothing it out is what you just saw me do, and you can tell when it's smoothed out because it starts to almost blur, lose its definition, and then of course you can go back in and add that. Now here you see I'm tapping in and sort of creating that bridge of the nose. Smooth that out a little bit, take it a little further away. You can see what's happening there. So now we know that cheeks don't slope down like that normally. You see how right here, this area right here where I just tapped so that the circle would be, see how that curves inward? That's not what's really popping with our cheeks. So the first thing I'm doing here is sort of defining the nostrils a little bit more and pressing in. I'm a big fan of our beautiful ass African features, so I'm never trying to rock no European structures when it comes to our features. I like the noses big, I like them wide, I like them flat, I like them with flaring nostrils. That's just one of the many ways we represent beautifully. All types of different features to my people, and this is the particular feature I choose to focus on right now. So I want to emphasize that cheek area a little bit. I'm turning it around so you can see just how indented it is. So I just adjusted my brush size, and now I'm just tapping up and out, just a little, up and out. And you can see right there, the cheeks aren't as indented as they were. I may have done a little too much, but that's okay. Yeah, that's all right there. I'll pull that part in, and I maybe just want to tap up here a little bit more. Oops. Okay, that was not good. I didn't mean to make her nose look like that. So I'm adjusting it. Okay, so now she's got a little bit of cheek action, and I want to start defining the mouth. So, if you touch right up under your nose, directly under the tip of your nose, underneath the ledge, your mouth comes outward. So what I'm telling you, the reason I'm telling you that is what you don't want to do is what I'm about to do. Take the clay brush and start building lips. So this grid line is annoying me. I want to turn it off. Give me just a second to remember, because I haven't been working in Nomad Sculpt for a while, so I've forgotten where everything is. So I have to keep going back and looking. All right, so the grid line is gone. Now it's just you, me, perspective cube, and the subject and the tools that we're working with. So what I was saying is, if you take the clay brush and you decide, well, I'm just going to go ahead and build out my lips, then remember it's still on symmetry. So this is the clay brush, and this is me setting up a pair of lips. Let me just go ahead and lock it to the front. You lock the perspective cube by pressing on whatever it's set to currently and just holding it down until the lock appears. So right now I am applying clay. So that means just like as if I was air dry clay sculpting in real time, this is the equivalent of pulling off a piece of clay and popping it into the area that you want. So I'm building up clay to make a semblance of a mouth. Again, love our African features, so you ain't gonna find no tiny lips around me. So right now, I smoothed it, so it's not very defined. It looks pretty blurred. I'm just gonna go ahead and do another voxel merge so that I can, uh-oh, no, I don't wanna do that. Changed my mind. I'm going back. I'm not doing a voxel remesh. I took it back. What I'm gonna do is grab the crease brush and just add a crease to the lips to give it some definition. So that's the mouth area that I want, okay? Now, she doesn't have enough chin, but what I want to do is hold down on the front of the perspective cube until the lock goes away. Or no, I don't have to hold down, I'm sorry, I just have to tap it. Now I'm going to turn it to the side. And now you see what happened with her lips because I just decided to put clay on top of an unstructured area. That looks crazy, she's not cute. So what I'm doing is I'm double tapping and I'm taking away everything that I did with the clay. And I just keep multiple double tapping until I get back to where I want to be. And where I want to be is before I started adding clay to the lips. There we go. So now we're back there. So like I told you before, if you touch your finger under the tip of your nose, directly under the ledge, your finger has to sit in an angle because that's how the mouth structure of the skeleton underneath is. Your mouth, your lip is sitting on top of gums, it's sitting on top of teeth, and it's sitting on top of a skeleton. So it can't be flat like that because it's almost layered in the way that it's structured. So you're going to want to do the same thing, is angle that out, pull out that upper area, you know, for the lips, tap a little bit, build it around. The same thing is going to pretty much happen with the bottom. So you can go ahead and pull that out little by little. And of course, you know that if you put your finger along the center of the bottom of your lip, it first goes in to a concave and then the chin comes out. So now that we have an idea of the area of where the sister's lips are going to be, and let me just define that a little more. Now we can go ahead and, pull out the chin. So we've just pulled out the chin, and I'm just tapping along the sides because you see, pulled it out from the side, right? That's what I was telling you about how you're constantly turning, rotating, and looking. You pull it out from the side, that looks fine. It's just, it looks like it's rounded enough. You know, you can see where there's going to have to be a little bit of work on the neck or whatever, on the chin area that you might want to pull out, and that's fine. But when you turn it to the front, it's to this point that's crazy. So you don't want that. We still have it set to symmetry. I just made the brush size larger and I'm taking the intensity down and I'm going to tap, 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 tap and pull out slightly in that area, turn it around, and I can see where I want to tap, tap, tap and pull the underside down a little bit more. Turning it, again, you're constantly turning, constantly reworking. I want to pull out this area, side of the jaws a little bit more. I think I emphasized that a little bit too much. We don't want to give her a strong jaw. So now I have made my brush size a little bit larger, tapping it on the front. And this is basically an okay structure to start out from to go ahead and build a face. So, yeah, you know, if you guys are feeling this and you want a part 2 and want to see how this comes along, hit like, leave a comment, and I'll definitely get on that maybe later tonight or tomorrow to put up a second video. But definitely check out Nomad Sculpt. Peace.